The movie kicks off by introducing us to Bradley, an auto mechanic by trade. Like any other day, Bradley pulls up to the garage with a car that needs work, but when he gets there, he finds the owner impatiently waiting for him, which immediately seems odd. The owner calls him into his office and Bradley instantly knows what's coming. He's about to be fired. And he's right. His boss claims the garage is going through a financial crisis and he's forced to lay off some workers. But this is just an excuse. The truth is, Bradley is a tough, no-nonsense kind of guy, and his boss wants to replace him with someone who will just suck up to him. Being the man he is, Bradley doesn't argue. He just goes to the locker room, packs his things, gets in his car, and quietly heads home. As Bradley pulls up to his house, he sees his wife, Lauren, sitting in her car talking on the phone. He gets a bad feeling, so he just sits there and stares her down, trying to figure out what's going on. When his suspicion feels confirmed, he gets out, walks over to her car, and tells her to open the door. She says, "You're home early." Just then, Bradley spots fresh lipstick marks on her neck. "Give me your phone," he demands. Lauren refuses, so Bradley snatches it from her. His gut was right. She was talking to another man. Furious, Bradley tells Lauren to get in the house. "Just let me explain," she pleads. "I said, get inside." Lauren quietly obeys and goes into the house. First, he gets fired. Now, his wife is cheating on him. It's all too much. So, he unleashes all his pent-up rage on Lauren's car. He's in such a blind rage that he doesn't even realize he's completely torn up his own hands in the process. Afterward, he calms himself down, goes inside, and asks Lauren how long she's been seeing this other guy. She comes clean and admits she's been having an affair for the last 3 months. It turns out Lauren had recently suffered a miscarriage and was deeply depressed. Bradley was always busy with work, leaving her feeling lonely and neglected at home. To fill that void, she sought comfort in another man. Hearing this, Bradley realizes he should have been there for her. He apologizes and says that starting right now, they're going to build a new life together. Lauren agrees. Then Bradley drops his own bomb. He tells her he was laid off and that he's going to start working for a man named Gil, a notorious drug lord. The moment she hears the name Gil, Lauren shuts it down. "You're not working for him," she says. "You promised you never would." Bradley explains, "I know, but we can't be a happy family in this situation. It takes money to raise a family, and right now, I don't have any other options." He promises her that he will be extremely careful. The story then jumps forward 18 months. Bradley is now working as a drug courier, meeting dealers in apartments, and delivering the packages. After a drop, he heads home, and we see his life has been completely transformed. He's making serious money from this work. He now lives in a huge house, owns several luxury cars, and in just a few days, Lauren is due to give birth to their child, which will make their happiness complete. Later, Bradley brings Lauren into the bedroom, but just as they get a moment to talk, his phone rings. It's Gil, summoning him to his house immediately. Bradley gets in his car and leaves. The look on Lauren's face says it all. She is not happy with this line of work. A short while later, Bradley arrives at a secluded location where we meet the drug lord he works for, Gil. Gil explains that he has a friend named Eleazar who has major connections in Mexico, and they need to do an important job for him. Soon after, Eleazar arrives with 2 of his men, Roman and Pedro. Eleazar tells Bradley about the job and says that Roman and Pedro will be assisting him, but Bradley flat out refuses to work with them. He takes one look at Roman and sees a total junkie. He fears Roman will be reckless and sloppy, which could get them all caught by the cops. Eleazar defends his guys, calling them his most capable men, but Bradley still says no. Gil pulls Bradley aside and tries to convince him, explaining how profitable this job could be for them. He also promises that when Bradley's baby is born, he'll get 3 months of paid leave. After thinking it over, Bradley agrees, but on one condition. He will be in charge and Eleazar's men have to follow his orders. Eleazar agrees. To seal the deal, Bradley gives Roman a quick test. He asks, "Roman, if I tell you to toss the merchandise, what do you do?" Roman replies, "I'll toss it." And just like that, they have an agreement. That night, the 3 of them arrive at a dock. But before they even get on the boat, Roman starts trying to call the shots. Before Bradley can get angry, Pedro steps in and reminds Roman, "We have a deal. We have to listen to Bradley." Bradley then pilots the boat himself, carefully scanning the area before stopping at the target location. Pedro puts on a dive suit, slips into the water, and retrieves a hidden lockbox from below. What's inside? Nothing less than $3 million worth of crystal meth. They quickly transfer all the packages out of the box, toss it back into the water, and head back to the dock. But on the way, Bradley's gut tells him something is wrong. He suddenly tosses his package of drugs overboard and tells the other 2 to do the same. Roman and Pedro ignore his warning. Instead, they start beating the hell out of Bradley. He manages to control his rage, lets them go, and heads back towards the boat. But as Roman and Pedro walk a little further down the dock, they're suddenly surrounded by police. A massive shootout erupts. Bradley doesn't want to get caught, so he plans to slip away quietly. But then he hears the cops yelling for help. An idea sparks in his mind. He'll pretend to be a regular citizen helping the police, and then they won't suspect him. He sneaks up from behind, shoots Pedro first, and then takes down Roman. Unfortunately for him, the police arrest him anyway. Later, during interrogation, a detective questions him about the drugs and asks what he was doing there. Bradley tries to play dumb and mislead him, but the detective can tell he's a sharp guy. While the detective doesn't have any solid evidence linking Bradley to the drugs, he did just kill 2 men. That's more than enough to put him away. Before his court hearing, Bradley is allowed one last visit with his wife. He tells Lauren to take care of herself and their unborn child. He assures her he's made enough money from his illegal work for them to live a comfortable and prosperous life. Bradley is then sentenced to 7 years in a medium security prison for manslaughter and illegal firearm possession. Upon arrival, he's forced to give up all his valuables, even his wedding ring. After a health screening, he's sent to an upper-level cell with an old inmate named Lefty. There, they're met by a prison officer named Andre, who lays down the rules. The most important one, whenever the bell rings, he must immediately step outside his cell for roll call. Bradley is then thrown into his cell, where he starts cursing himself for ever agreeing to work with Elizar. Exhausted, he falls into a deep sleep. When it's time for roll call, every other inmate lines up outside their cell. But Bradley is still dead asleep, which means all the other inmates are forced to go hungry. When Bradley finally stumbles out much later, Andre completely loses it on him, screaming, "Didn't I explain the rules to you?" Andre gives him one final warning. From now on, he will follow every single rule, or there will be hell to pay. The scene then cuts to his wife, Lauren, sleeping at home. She suddenly senses that someone has broken into the house. She quickly grabs a gun from a drawer, but it's too late. The intruders, who seem to be there to kidnap her, hit her with a taser and she collapses to the floor, unconscious. The story shifts back to Bradley, who is told he has a visitor. When he gets to the visitation room, he meets a female doctor named Denise. She claims that his wife's doctor, a Dr. Placid, called her. Denise tells Bradley that according to Dr. Placid, Lauren is having serious complications with her pregnancy and that Dr. Placid needs to see him tomorrow morning at 10 a.m. This is a huge red flag for Bradley, because Lauren has never mentioned a doctor named Placid. The next day, Bradley meets with Dr. Placid, a man he's never seen before in his life. That's because he's not Lauren's doctor at all. He's one of Elizar's men, posing as a doctor. He explains that because of the failed drug deal, his boss Elizar lost $3 million. Then, he shows Bradley a photo of Lauren, revealing that they've kidnapped her. Dr. Placid continues, "Elizar is furious with you. He's going to kill your wife and your unborn child. But, he says, there's one way to stop that from happening. They make a deal." Bradley is told he has to assassinate a man who's serving a life sentence. This man's name is Christopher, and he's an inmate in cell block 99 of the infamous Red Leaf maximum security prison. Dr. Placid tells Bradley that if he can get himself transferred to Red Leaf, find block 99, and kill Christopher, Elizar will forgive the debt and let his wife and child go free. Hearing this, Bradley is left completely devastated and heartbroken, with no idea if he should or even can go through with it. As Andre is leading Bradley back to his cell, Bradley makes his move. He suddenly slips off his shoe and launches a brutal attack on the officer, beating him relentlessly. This isn't a random act of violence. Bradley is doing it all on purpose. His one and only goal is to get transferred to Red Leaf Prison. Enraged, Andre pulls out his baton and starts wailing on Bradley, but Bradley manages to overpower him and break his arm. Hearing Andre's screams, other guards rush in, cuff Bradley, and drag him to a lower-level cell. But Bradley's mission isn't over. He needs to get to Red Leaf, so he starts another brawl, taking on all 3 guards at once. Seeing his violent behavior, a guard tases him, and just like that, his plan works. He's officially labeled a high-risk, dangerous inmate and is immediately transferred to the infamous Red Leaf Prison. When he arrives, he's greeted by the sadistic Warden Tuggs and his 4 guards. Tuggs tells him, "You made a huge mistake coming here. Red Leaf is the end of the line. The security is airtight, and the facilities are straight out of hell." Bradley is then taken for processing, and afterward, he's thrown not into block 99, but block 59. The cell is horrifying. Bradley remembers Tuggs' words about hellish facilities as he looks around. The previous inmate had left feces smeared all over the cell, and the stench is absolutely unbearable. But for his family, Bradley is ready to endure anything. He quietly takes off his undershirt, covers his nose with it, and tries to sleep. A while later, a guard bangs on his cell door and lets him out for 60 minutes of yard time. Once outside, Bradley immediately starts searching for Christopher. A man named Derek approaches him, and Bradley asks, "Do you know an inmate named Christopher?" Derek's answer is chilling. He tells him straight up, "There is no inmate named Christopher in all of Red Leaf." Stunned, Bradley spots a group of inmates working out and decides to ask them. Derek warns him not to go near them, calling them a bunch of psychos, but Bradley ignores him and walks right over. As expected, the inmates get aggressive. Bradley provokes them, intentionally starting a fight. Once again, he's doing this for a reason. He He needs to be seen as the most dangerous man in the prison, so they'll have no choice but to throw him into Block 99, where he can find his target and save his family. A guard fires a warning shot to break it up. As more guards rush to the scene, Bradley goes wild, turning his attack on them. Finally, Warden Tuggs arrives and orders his men to put a hood over Bradley's head. He is then dragged directly to Block 99, an underground dungeon used for solitary confinement. There, he's strapped into a remote-controlled stun belt and thrown into a cell littered with broken glass. Tuggs then uses the remote to electrocute him into submission. The scene cuts back to Lauren, who is still being held captive. Her condition has deteriorated badly. We see Dr. Placid taking her picture, and with him is a Korean abortion specialist. The horrifying reality becomes clear. They are preparing to terminate Lauren's pregnancy. Back in Block 99, Bradley lies broken and unconscious from the electric shocks. When he finally comes to, he starts screaming Christopher's name at the top of his lungs. An inmate in the next cell over tells him the same thing Derek did. There's no one named Christopher in Block 99. Bradley is stunned into silence. Hearing the noise, guards storm in, drag him out of the cell, and begin shocking him again. Then one of the guards tells him, "Christopher wants to see you." He's taken to another cell, and this is where the movie's biggest twist is revealed. Bradley is horrified by what he sees. Waiting inside is not Christopher, but Eleazar, along with the same psycho inmates Bradley fought in the yard. The truth is, Christopher was just a lie, a trap set by Eleazar to lure Bradley into Block 99 and get his revenge. Because of Bradley, Eleazar lost $3 million and was arrested. On top of that, Bradley killed Pedro, who was married to Eleazar's sister. Now, Eleazar wants payback. He's even paid off the guards to be on his side. They continuously shock Bradley with the stun belt. Eleazar then shows him the picture Dr. Placid sent of his wife, telling him that now, neither he nor his family is going to survive. They beat him savagely before dragging him back to his cell. The remote for the stun belt is now in Eleazar's hands, and he tortures Bradley relentlessly, leaving him broken and hopeless in a glass-strewn cell. Bradley is completely broken and hopeless. At this moment, it seems like all his efforts to save his family have been for nothing. But then, while talking to the inmate in the next cell, he hatches a desperate plan. He rips the insole out of his shoe and carefully places it over the stun belt's metal contacts, disabling it. A short time later, the guards return and drag him into the corridor to check on him. When they tell him to go back to his cell, Bradley makes an excuse saying, "Just let me get a breath of fresh air." The guards refuse and start shocking him again, but they have no idea the belt has stopped working. Bradley brilliantly pretends to be convulsing from the shocks, and then, seeing his chance, he suddenly attacks both of them. He kills one of the guards, which terrifies the other. Bradley snatches the keys from the surviving guard and locks him in his own cell. Then, Bradley heads straight for the cell, where Eleazar is waiting. He's first met by the psycho inmates. One by one, Bradley unleashes absolute hell on them. He stomps one man's face into the ground, gouges out another's eye, and beats the third and final inmate half to death, finishing him with a brutal kick that shatters his skull. Now, just imagine what he's about to do to Eleazar, the man responsible for taking his wife and unborn child away from him forever. He lands a single, powerful punch that drops Eleazar to the floor. He snatches his phone and threatens him, demanding that he call his men and call off the abortion. Eleazar, stubborn to the end, refuses. So, Bradley shatters his right leg. Finally, Eleazar gives in and makes the call, stopping the procedure. Bradley also tells him to have Lauren taken safely to Gil's place. Bradley then drags Eleazar to his own cell and throws him in with the guard. But just as he's about to close the door, Warden Tuggs and his men arrive. Tuggs asks where his two guards are. Bradley replies, "One of them is dead, but the other is still alive. And if you open this door, I'll kill him too." In reality, Bradley is just stalling, waiting for a confirmation call from Gil that his wife is safe. Meanwhile, following Eleazar's orders, Dr. Placid and the Korean doctor take Lauren to Gil's house. Dr. Placid keeps a gun pointed at Gil to make sure he doesn't try anything. But as soon as they turn to leave, Gil pulls out a hidden sniper rifle and shoots Dr. Placid in the head, killing him instantly. Lauren then takes the rifle and executes the Korean doctor who was there to end her child's life. Back in the prison, Bradley gets the call from Gil, who tells him that Lauren is safe and that he'll take care of her from now on. Gil passes the phone to Lauren, and Bradley speaks his final, heartbreaking words to his unborn child. Grow up to be a good person, be healthy, be smart, and live a good life. Bradley is overcome with sadness, knowing he will never see his child. Outside the cell, an enraged Warden Tuggs yells, "Are you done with your crying now?" To which Bradley replies, "Just give me one more minute." He walks back into the cell and begins to mercilessly kill Eleazar, stomping on his head until it is completely detached from his body. Having seen enough, Tuggs' patience runs out. He steps into the cell and shoots Bradley in the head, killing him instantly. And with that final tragic act, our movie comes to an end.